Good morning, Canada. Good evening, Asia. It is Thursday. It's 11 a.m. here in Toronto, and it is time for our regular webinars on immigration to Canada. My name is Alex Davidson, and today we're going to talk about the provincial immigration to Manitoba. Since we have spoken about this program before, we'll have our webinar today in sort of two parts. I'll talk about the program in general first, and then we would discuss updates, recent news, what to prepare for, upcoming sessions, etc. etc. As usual, today I'll spend a couple of minutes introducing our team, while then discuss general information about the administrative division of Canada. I'll tell you the basic difference between federal and provincial immigration, so you get an idea like how exactly those programs work and correlate with each other. Afterwards, we'll focus on the province of Manitoba, what it is, where it is, what you could expect if you're moving here. Then we'll go ahead with the discussion of Manitoba Provincial Nominee Streams. What sort of streams are there? How to apply? We'll talk about eligibility, of course. And then for those who have applied or is looking to apply in the nearest future, we'll discuss what you could do and what would be your next steps. Last but not least, of course, I'll share our team's contacts for questions, for answers, for direct communication with us. Very briefly about us, our team consists of professional licensed immigration practitioners. All of us have at least 10 years of immigration and visa practice, and we're located here in Toronto. We have a smaller office in Markham, Ontario, and another office in the New York City in the United States. In Bangladesh, we have a pretty solid and a strong team. That's the Visa Center, and the underlying reasons why we're together is that we're absolutely sure that Visa Center, their team, are as passionate as we are about delivering the most serious, truthful, and professional immigration assistance to the local applicants. You very well know how fraud and lies and fake promises find their ways in your country, and how hard it is to find the right partner which would go with you hand to hand during the immigration process. And that is why we're standing with the Visa Center in Dhaka. From my side, I'm tremendously thankful to all of you for joining the regular webinars and spreading a word about them. I honestly believe that together we'll be able to change this situation with the fraud for the best. So now, briefly about provinces and territories of Canada. So as I said, right, the first part of the webinar would be pretty much the general information. Now, our country is the second largest in the world, and I believe that we're occupying the best part of the Northern American continent. Canada consists of 10 provinces and 3 territories. It is essential here to know that with accordance to the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, citizens and permanent residents of Canada, so means the new immigrants of Canada, have a right to move freely between territories and provinces and establish homes without any limitations. It means that no matter which province or territory you immigrate to, you could move between them freely and work and live anywhere you wish. You don't have to wait for your citizenship to do that. If you immigrate through the Manitoba stream, it is quite possible for you to move to Ontario, to British Columbia, anywhere you would decide afterwards. Immigration law has 2 separate streams, provincial and federal. Of course, how it could be noted from the name, the federal immigration is apparently governed by the federal authorities, and provincial immigration, of course, governed by provincial authorities. So federal immigration, here are a few examples for you. It could be the well-known programs such as Canadian Experience Class, Federal Skilled Trades, Entrepreneur Programs, Live-in Caregiver, self-employed programs. Provincial immigration examples would be programs which are specifically established by territories and provinces of Canada. For example, Alberta Provincial Nominee Program, Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program, immigration nominee programs, which work close hand by hand with the express entry system, and many, many others. So federal immigration, in an essence, applications are submitted to the federal authorities. For example, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, which has previously been known as CIC, now it's called IRCC, but essentially it's pretty much the same. So if you're applying under the federal skilled worker through the express entry stream, you could, for example, settle anywhere you would like. You could select, I don't know, Manitoba Winnipeg, you could select Saskatchewan Regina as a landing city. No one would penalize you uh, for whatever place you decide to come in first. No one would penalize you for whatever place you decide to move afterwards. Provincial immigration programs are, of course, are regulated, as I said, by provincial authorities, and an applicant must choose a specific province or territory as his or her destination, right? You cannot claim that you're going to Manitoba and at the same time in your application forms know that you're coming to Vancouver, right? Major principles of provincial immigration. Lots of the provinces in Canada are underpopulated, and they tend to develop programs to attract more immigrants who may otherwise choose to come to overpopulated provinces such as Ontario or British Columbia. So at the same time, provinces and territories are bound by the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which of course does not allow any restrictions on free move and free settlement of permanent residents across Canada. So in other terms, it means that no one, absolutely no one, could tell you where you have to live and what you have to do. It does not, of course, mean that the immigration laws and procedures should be violated. Um, so here's an example, but like traditional provinces such as British Columbia and Ontario, they tend to attract more immigrants than other territories and provinces, uh, which leads, of course, to the growing unemployment rate, high prices for residential living, such as in Ontario, infrastructure shortage, etc. On the other hand, provinces such as Manitoba may experience serious lack of qualified workforce simply because lots of people are shifting to other places. So how to deal with that? Well, as I said, there is no legal mechanism which will bound you to live in a certain province. Therefore, immigration programs of provinces, they are specifically designed to bring newcomers to certain provinces. And since there is no way to tie a newcomer to a province, provinces, they tend to select candidates who already have connections with the province, such as employment, relatives, friends, um, probability of employment. That could work as well. Very, very few provincial immigration programs are open to candidates without those solid connections. And in an essence, Manitoba is one of them. I believe we spoke about the difficulty, the goal, etc. Now about the province of Manitoba very briefly. Manitoba belongs to Canadian prairies. An average climate in Winnipeg, you may just Google for that, but it's about 26 to 30 heat degrees in summer, about -10, -20 in winter, which is not too cold, not too hot either, right? And Manitoba has a common border with our southern neighbor, the United States. Typically in Canada, Manitoba is associated with the farming, of course, with the mining, with the tourism, with the energy sector. Manitoba's economy, in an essence, is one of the strongest in Canada, and unemployment rate here is traditionally one of the lowest in the country, simply because not so many people live in here, and in Manitoba, we have a situation where more people are needed to work than we actually have in the province. Speaking about briefly about the housing costs, usually they are 8 to 10 times lower than those in Montreal, in Vancouver, in Toronto. And while the salaries are more or less on par with the rest of Canada, it's not surprising that Manitoba residents are usually considered to be one of the richest in Canada, simply because of low insurance rates, low cost of living compared to other provinces of Canada. Residents in Manitoba, they typically save more on their paychecks. In Manitoba, they have 3 provincial nominee programs: skilled workers overseas, and business immigration. Well, to put it very simple, skilled workers, those who already have an offer on employment. So for example, that's the graduates who studied in Manitoba, they graduated, they got the work permit, now they got an offer of employment. Business immigrants are, of course, those who are looking to open the business in Manitoba. Minimum assets value here is close to 350,000 Canadian dollars. That's the minimum threshold for the business immigration. Skilled worker overseas, that's pretty much, I believe, the most of the listeners today. And those are people from another country who are looking to come and settle in Manitoba. Now, if we're speaking about the skilled worker overseas, the major eligibility requirement for Manitoba is connection. So if you're planning to apply under the skilled worker overseas program, you have to have established connections with the province. You should have either friends in the province or relatives in the province, or at least 6 months of work experience in Manitoba, or completion of studies in Manitoba, or you have an invitation from immigration authorities of Manitoba. So this last point specifically, this invitation, it means that if you do not have anyone in the province, you may receive an invitation based on an interview with provincial immigration authorities. And today, of course, we'll specifically stop on this last point because we have clients who applied for the interview. We would, of course, discuss how to communicate with the officers in order to maximize your chances for an interview invitation. Another good thing is that Bangladeshi community is pretty strong in Manitoba. It's strong in Brandon and in Winnipeg. And contacting them could be helpful for getting a support for immigrating to the province. Now, getting further with the eligibility requirement, very briefly, I'll just get back here for a second. An applicant should be preferably of age between 21 to 45 and at the time of applying. It does not necessarily mean that you cannot apply at 46, 49, but if you lose points for an age, you have to compensate it in other criteria. So for example, your language skills would be higher, your education credentials would be better, etc. Now, work experience is at least 2 years of skilled and qualified work experience for the out of the last 5 years. It could be part-time experience accumulated for the same period of time. So for example, you got 4 years of part-time experience accumulated out of the last 5 out of the last 5 years, which would technically be considered as 2 years of full-time. Language requirement is of course IELTS, and well, as you pretty much know, there is no real way to immigrate to Canada without IELTS, with a very few exceptions, such as, for example, investor programs. In Manitoba, language minimum threshold is kept pretty low in order to attract applicants from abroad and give them a chance to be settled in the province. So minimum requirement is CLB, Canadian Language Benchmark 5 in all the modules. This is the minimum requirement, but we strongly recommend having at least a better score of CLB 6, which is very close to IELTS 5.5, right? It's not the 6 or 7 which is required under the Federal Skilled Worker Program. It is less, but at least 5.5 would give you a chance to apply for an interview. Now, getting a closer look on the opportunities offered by the province of Manitoba for those who are wishing to immigrate. First of all, we're talking about exploratory visits. Such a visit is actually the very first step for many candidates on their way to settling in Manitoba. Not, of course, every province offers an opportunity to pay a visit, but Manitoba does. And I'm sure many of you have already applied for exploratory visit and now are patiently waiting for the results. For those who are not aware of this opportunity, I would like to briefly remind that a candidate may be invited for an exploratory visit to Manitoba to start his or her immigration process. Now, the essence of this visit is not just to come to Manitoba, right? Uh, it is, as the name implies, it's exploring all kinds of opportunities in Manitoba, including prospective employment, including post-secondary education, including professional certification, licensing, cost of living, neighborhoods like real estate, local communities, and so on and so on. So it is expected that after such exploratory trip, a candidate will be prepared for immigration to Manitoba because he or she will have personal first-hand experience in advance, which will then allow you to make a well-grounded decisions like about looking for particular jobs, about sending kids to schools, and other aspects of successful establishment in Canada. Usually, upon conclusion of an exploratory trip, a candidate will have an interview with officials of Manitoba, and he or she, I mean the applicant, will most likely receive the invitation to apply for permanent residence in Canada under the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. To use this opportunity, candidates have to register by submitting their resumes, motivation letter, and copies of their IELTS test results to Manitoba immigration authorities when the registration is open. Normally, all you have to do is to submit your up-to-date professional resume, which is prepared according to the Canadian standards. It is important, right? Uh, of course, the letter to the authorities should contain your motivational letter, which would explain why you want to immigrate to Manitoba, right? Like what drives you personally to these programs, like what in particular. Of course, all submissions will be considered, and typically many applicants would be invited. I must, however, especially note that being invited for an exploratory trip is not a 100% guarantee that a candidate will receive a temporary visa to undertake the trip, right? So the temporary visa has to be prepared. Lots of applicants believe that if they were invited by the Manitoba, it's like a guarantee of a temporary resident visa to Canada. It is not. Just keep in mind that the temporary resident visa documents have to be prepared properly. If you just sent your passport, if you do not prepare the documents properly, chances are that the visa would be refused. So just keep that in mind. Now, let's see how those of you who have already expressed their formal intention, those of you who had the chance to send your profile to the immigration authorities, uh, can increase chances of being invited for a visit. Well, your natural question usually would be like, what happened next? How long should I wait? When I send my profile and hear nothing from the immigration authorities. You know very well that over a few recent weeks, immigration authorities of Manitoba, they were accepting submissions from candidates all over the world who are willing to undertake that exploratory trip. Now, when the submission period is over, Manitoba Immigration Office will screen all candidates to identify those who demonstrate high potential of becoming well established in the province after immigration. Yes, this process takes time, and you should be prepared to wait sometimes up to 5-6 months before a decision is made on your submission. Reasonable question is why to sit and wait. Please use that waiting time wisely. Do your best to increase your chances to be selected. First of all, you have to remember that Manitoba would select the candidates that, based on the Manitoba officer's opinion, will become economically established in the province. So, in a nutshell, it means that preferences would be given to candidates with a high potential of securing employment in Manitoba. And since this future employment is the key factor in this entire selection process, please make sure to further demonstrate your ability and willingness to get a job. Post your resume on all the job boards you can find online in Manitoba. Like virtually anything you could find, your resume should be there. Start receiving feedback from employers in Manitoba as soon as possible. Write them down, bombard them with the questions, send them your resume. And of course, do not hesitate to follow up with Manitoba immigration authorities when you have something to say. As soon as you get in touch with potential employers in the province, immediately let the immigration office know that you're on a way to success. Tell them that you're in touch with the employers about your job search progress. And remember that Canada always welcomes proactive applicants, so you'd better become one. In essence, being proactive means not just sitting and waiting, but making efforts to get closer and closer to your goal. So tell the immigration authorities, for example, that you have posted your resume on 10 job boards, that on top of that, you're sending 50 resumes per day on average to potential employers. Tell them that you talked to some of them. Show them the evidence. If there was even the slightest communication via the email, attach that to your letter to immigration authorities. Remind them about yourself and show them that you're doing your homework to become successful. Show them that this invitation to come to Manitoba is actually your way and your key to talking to the employers directly, that you have started establishing those connections and you're definitely planning to immigrate and stay in Manitoba. Now, what if you were unaware of this opportunity to apply under the exploratory visit? Like, is it possible to participate anyways? And the answer is in generally yes. First and foremost, it is quite possible that there would be one more window of those invitations in this year. It's not set when it's going to happen, but it is quite possible that it would open. Now, another opportunity, it goes like it has the roots in the fact that the province of Manitoba and their immigration authorities are very well known for their innovative approach to selection of potential candidates. First of all, keep an eye on the official website of Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. Chances are that you won't miss the next period of registration, and as I said, there is a chance that it would happen this year again. But there is even more than that. Every single year, sometimes 2-3 times a year, Manitoba participates in the series of so-called Destination Canada events outside of Canada. So Destination Canada, it is an international job fair where candidates can meet with potential employers from Canada. And of course, as you know that arranged employment in Canada is actually like a jump start. It's almost a guarantee of immigration. But moreover, amongst the participants, there are not only the employers, there are also immigration officials of Manitoba, and their mission is to select candidates for immigration among the visitors directly. So the process there is quite simple. Register for a Destination Canada event, come and see any Manitoba immigration officer, have with them a very, very brief interview. Sometimes it just doesn't go above and beyond like 5-10 minutes talk, and receive an invitation to apply right on the spot from the hands of the visa officer. Just remember that registration for Destination Canada could be time sensitive, and therefore you have to monitor their website closely to take this opportunity. Just Google for Destination Canada. As far as I remember, when we were preparing for this webinar, there was still the website for Destination Canada 2015. It's not been announced for this year, but still keep an eye on that, right? It's one of the best opportunities to meet in person with the Manitoba authorities without actually going to Manitoba and getting that invitation to apply right in there. Based on our previous experience, immigration officers of Manitoba are usually present at almost every Destination Canada event, and up to 90% of candidates who are interviewed by them receive the invitation to apply under the Manitoba Provincial Nominee Program. So usually it's a very simple preparation. It's just a very quick talk of about 5-10 minutes, and in return, you're getting your invitation to apply. It's like a golden ticket. Now, what should we do next if you're looking to assess your chances and apply? Well, of course, first and foremost, choose your immigration legal team carefully. Come to us, to our local team in Dhaka, so we could talk and discuss your situation, assess your chances, and see which program would work better for you. Here's the email address of ours, of our partners. As I said before, we're proudly working with the experts of Visa Center, who are very knowledgeable, who are trustworthy and experienced professionals. So feel free to ask questions, address your thoughts, concerns directly. We're here to help. Thank you so much for being with me today. Next time, we'll continue talking about the provincial immigration programs, and I would like to touch upon the topic of New Brunswick Provincial Nominee Program. That is one of the programs such as Manitoba, which has the external sessions where people could participate by traveling not necessarily to Canada but to another country to speak with the immigration authorities, and that could be a chance for those who have higher IELTS score than 5.5. For those who have applied through Express Entry, that could be the way for immigration to Canada faster and with a higher score. Stay tuned with us, and on this note, goodbye.